Hello students, today we are going to be going over Chapter 7 Prerequisite Skills. This is page 117 in your yellow packet. Okay, it says graph the solution. X is greater than 5. Now there's a couple of things we need to remember as far as graphing goes on if a number is included in the solution set or is not included. So this is what you need to remember. If it is greater than or less than, it's an open dot, like that. If it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, then it's a closed dot. The way to remember that is that this takes more ink here, and so this takes more ink here. This takes less ink, so this will have less ink. And you can remember it that way until you can have it memorized. So we're going to graph the first one, and it says X is greater than 5. So here's our number line. 5, I'm going to say, is right there. It's greater than, but it's not or equal to, so it takes less ink, so I'm going to circle this. And if the variable's on the left side, this arrow tells you which way to shade. So there's the arrow, and that means I'm going to shade this direction. And we've graphed that on the number line. Okay. Next, over here we have -7 is greater than or equal to A. And I always like to move it so the variable's on the left side. Okay. So I'm going to move it over that way. But when I do that, I've got to change the direction of the sign. So instead of going to the right, it's going to go to the left. And I keep it at -7. So -7 is going to be to the left of 0. Okay. Now I'm going to include this because this has more ink here, or equal to. So I've got to include that as part of my solution set. And then I shade to the left. And we can pause the video while you do the rest of these if you want. Okay. Now we're going to talk about solving and graphing inequalities. And again, you can pause the video if you want. Let's see. Here we go with our example here on solving and graphing inequalities. Basically, you can treat it like an equal sign until right here. When you're going to get a coefficient of 1, if you divide by a negative, you flip the inequality. So you flip the direction of the inequality right here because you divide by -25. See how that goes? Divide by a negative, flip the inequality. So there's basically 3 times that you would flip your inequality sign. One is if you switch R and 6 up here or over here like we did A. We change the direction of the inequality because we moved the A to the left. The other would be if you divide by a negative, then you have to flip the sign as well. And then if you multiply by a negative, that's also another reason you would flip the inequality sign. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a couple problems here. We have -10x equals -40. So to solve for x, we could just treat this like an equal sign until the end, which we're pretty much at the end right now. Divide by a negative number. Oh, I've got to flip the sign. Okay, and we're supposed to graph this as well. Usually I like to put 0 there. 4. Now is 4 included? More ink here means more ink here. And the arrow tells us to shade to the right. Okay? All right, we have another one here. Again, we can treat this like an equal sign. Draw the line down. We're going to add 1. And we only need to be concerned if we multiply or divide by a negative number. Otherwise, we leave the sign the same. Divide by 3. And say, do we multiply or divide by a negative number? Nope. Okay. So we do our number line here. Woo, that's a wonky number line. Okay, so we have 0 right here. Here's 20. Less than 20, so it's going to be an open dot. There's no or equal to, so no extra ink. And then we just shade this direction. And we're done. Okay. All right, I'm going to let you do the rest. We can pause the video again. Otherwise, we can just plow on through and go on to the next page. Now we're going to go over writing intervals on page 118. It's kind of just down from those equations up above, or inequalities. Okay, so when it's all one shading, it's going to be an and. Okay, so we can say -3 is less than or equal to, because it's shaded, more ink means more ink here, x, and it's less than or equal to 6. Okay, so closed dot again should be or equal to, and that's how you write that interval. These are on the outside. Okay, so that's the next one over there. Oh, and also, I guess this is one way to write it, but they like you to write it in interval notation. So interval notation means this way, -3, 6. So if you have these or these, that means they include the number, so they're solid lines. If they're this way, that means they do not include it, so they're going to be open dot. So these both include these two. So that's why you have -3, 6 right here. So here's your final answer right here. All right, but this is just another way to write basically the same thing. But they want you to learn interval notation, so we're going to be using brackets or parentheses. Okay, so this one, we can say that it starts at -infinity, and infinity, you can never quite reach it, so it's always parentheses if it's negative or positive infinity. In fact, over here I can do that with positive infinity right there. Okay, and then it goes up to -6. Does it include -6? No, so it's parentheses. Now, does it include 3? Yes, so it's a bracket. And the interval between 3 and infinity. So there's interval notation. And actually, they like you to use union between the two, because it's one union the other. Okay. All right. I was going to go ahead and do one more right here where they have open dot at 2 and it goes to 9. And 9 is a closed dot. So that interval there, and this is the second one on the left side, it does not include 2, so it's a parenthesis. 9 it does include, and so it's a bracket, and you're done. So when you have these all together in one, you'll just have one interval notation like this. If they're separated, you're going to have 2 intervals like that. One showing this one showing that one, with a union in between. Union means we're going to include both of them. Okay. The last part of this, we're going to evaluate our absolute values. And we have -10 absolute value equals 10. Negative on the outside, so absolute value 7, it comes out, the negatives on the outside, that's going to be -7. Next one, 9, absolute value would be 9 minus a -5. This got smeared a little bit. So 9 minus -5 comes out as +5, and the answer to that is 4. Okay. All right, next we want to go ahead and do negative. I'm going to skip down a little bit. -16 plus 22. So we do the operation inside the absolute value first here. Here we do the absolute value first, and then we do the operation. Here the operation is included. So is that a battle or a party? -16 plus 22. It's a battle, so they're fighting. And who wins? The positives. And how much do they win by? 6. So that would be absolute value of 6 equals 6. And there's your answer. Okay. All right. Then we're going to go on to the next one, 8 minus 17 absolute value minus 10. We're going to do this inside. It's a battle, so we end up with negative 9. Absolute value minus 10. And then absolute value of negative 9 is 9 minus 10. So your final answer is negative 1. Okay. You don't have too much more on this, students. You can get it. You rock.